Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another comic book review. And today's comic book review is none other than Missy. No, we're not talking about the Master from Doctor Who. No, we're not talking about some villain from a spy movie. Missy is a comic book about a stripper. Yeah, there's no other way to put it. It's very blunt, to the point, and let's get into it. So, essentially, Missy is a story about a young girl who essentially works the life of a stripper or a prostitute. It's a very funny line with this comic book. I'm not 100% sure which of the two, but I know that it's definitely some part she plays within the adult industry. And from the get-go of this comic book, we're introduced to her life. She was a big woman who works in a dancing person's club and essentially is trying to figure herself out in this world that is constantly showing the perception of lust, greed, and desire. She's working in the club because she wants to make some money, but after realizing that there's a lack of attention set her way, she begins to become very suicidal. She finds herself constantly either cutting herself or hurting herself in the bathtub, and this really starts to push her to the edge. A young man begins to acknowledge her, and this begins to make her very happy. However, when the twist of the story begins to play out, and she finds out that he didn't really care for her after all, and the next time she sees him, he's back with all the other girls, she begins to go back down into her down spiral. The comic book follows as she begins to lose weight, and eventually she begins to become a little bit more confident in herself. However, by the end of the comic book, we soon learn that even though this is true, Missy is no longer in control of herself. She has lost herself to what society wants her to be. And she finds herself in this kind of paradox of trying to figure out whether she goes back to the way she was, or whether she decides to accept this new reality and be what the world wants her to be. So, Missy, the comic book. What did I think of this beautiful French comic book? Honestly, still to this day, I love it. Why? Because it has such an affinity. An affinity to essentially embody the reality of our world. Some people call people too fat, some people call people too thin, and people in the world are often obsessed with what is right and what is wrong. People often make things a shade of blue or grey just so it fits into what they think is right. And in this comic, Missy, it is no exception. The people in the club are constantly gyrating towards this kind of skinny frame, this idea of people having even the slightest bit of weight being wrong. And you can honestly see why Missy down spirals in this comic book. And the way that it's handled and the way that it's blunt and to the point, I love I love that the down spiral is addressed in this comic book because it is so real to life. And for that reason, I give this comic book a solid 9 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next comic book review. Until then, goodbye, stay beautiful, and have an incredible day.